What if you had instant analytics on your PDP images and a faster way to create content that performs better? That's what we're diving into in today's episode, how top brands and retailers are using analytics and automation to stay ahead across retail media and the digital shelf. It's Rapid helps teams scale smarter. They analyze image performance, they help you create optimized assets for retail media networks and the digital shelf, and they integrate directly with PIM and DAM systems for seamless execution. Brands like Pepsi, Mondelez, and Instacart use its Rapid to go beyond basic tools to uncover gaps in PDP and retail media performance by analyzing the images themselves, not just the count. Streamline banner creation across hundreds of formats for Amazon Ads, Walmart Connect, and other retail and social platforms, and launch high-performing content more than 80% faster across e-commerce and marketing channels. If you're buried in manual work or struggling to keep up, this episode and It's Rapid will show you a better way. Visit itsrapid.ai to learn more.
Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
Welcome back to Beyond the Shelf. Today we're joined by Matt Krueger, SVP of Digital Commerce at Buffalo Games, where he leads the e-commerce growth strategy for some of the most beloved puzzle and game brands in the country. Whether it's optimizing PDPs for a 1,000-piece jigsaw or launching new products on Amazon, Matt is helping bring a modern, data-backed approach to a classic category. He's also been instrumental in scaling Buffalo Games' digital presence while keeping a strong focus on storytelling, creative, and the customer experience. We're talking about what it takes to make puzzles pop on the digital shelf, how to keep content fresh in a low-velocity category, and why e-commerce strategy always comes back to the fundamentals. Matt, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Dave. Thanks for making the time.
Absolutely. Great to have you. Take us back. How'd you get your start in the space?
Oh man, e-commerce has always been in my blood, I guess, per se. I started a small sporting goods store, which has nothing to do with e-commerce, except for the fact that it was the only store in the country, and everything else was done online. And it was a business of the umbrella, the Foot Locker Inc. umbrella, which was called eastbay.com, which some viewers and users may remember a catalog and sporting goods catalog that was mailed to a lot of people and then driven online if you didn't call in and order your goods. But I worked in that digital business, which was e-commerce only. And this was back in 2006 to 2012-ish timeframe. But that's what started me in the e-commerce space. I had no idea it was going to go into this long 15-year journey that I'm on at this point. But that's where it started.
Amazing. What a great start, a great story. Tell us about some of the different areas you've worked in: search, ads, content, all those different pieces.
Yeah, it's I hate to say because I'm not a jack of all trades. That would be a complete disservice to the people that function as subject matter experts in those specific areas. But I think, I've gone from grassroots marketing to print marketing to web merchandising, to category management, to go to market planning. So I've kind of dabbled in a lot of different things, but I think the most consistent space I ever had was I was kind of the middle person between all these different channels that we had. So I got to really pick their brains in different categories. So I was really the glue. And I would say when we were bringing a product to market, it was formulating the marketing plans to prioritize which products we needed to do to make our revenue plans. So, hey, search team, this is what we need to focus on. Social team, these are the campaigns we need to plan. Web team, this is the timeline for where all of our digital assets are going to go out. Let's make sure we're featuring them on the websites and putting together this holistic plan to make sure that everything was seamlessly integrated. Now these days that we did that a lot of that manually back then. Now it's, you can plug and play a little bit more, I think, with technology to be like, hey, feature these products, and it's more algorithmic based versus manually pushed and merchandised. But that's about as much as I can say as far as like working with all these different areas, but a lot of the category management area aspect.
Tell us how you got over to the brand side and then kind of what you're working on currently.
Yeah, so I spent about 5 years or so in the retail side, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how you look at it. And personal reasons took me out. I grew up in central Wisconsin and landed in Portland, Oregon. And like I said, I had this footwear based mentality. I was a sneakerhead in high school. Sports and business was always my passion, and I was on the retail with Foot Locker. And Portland, Oregon, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a footwear mecca of the world, at least in the athletic space. And so I took a chance to try and find a space out there and landed at a work footwear manufacturer. Surprisingly, it wasn't the Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour, but it was good because I was on a lean team and I got my hands dirty in a lot of places. And for me, it was about, at Foot Locker, we were working with Nike and Adidas of the world every day. We had our retail perspective, they have their brand perspective, and I thought it'd be a really good chance for me to take my retail knowledge, apply it to a brand side in a different space, and help the brand see both sides of the business as I learned the brand side. So that's really what motivated me to go to the brand side, because I had a decent 5-6 year run on the retail side and I wanted to explore the brand side.
So you've seen a little of both takeaways from retailer and brand?
I think it's always having the perspective of everyone has good intentions. And we have a few people internally here at Buffalo Games that really say that. And because everyone has the best of intentions to do the right thing, and everyone's motivated to get things done for a different reason, it's very easy to forget how to make those two sides of the coin work together. It doesn't mean one's right or wrong, even though when you're on one side or the other, you think each other's right or wrong. But it's a lot of times of just forgetting, hey, this is their motivation. Let's adapt to meet what they need. And then that side has to do the same and vice versa. And get that to come together is really, really hard, especially when you're talking about some of the biggest brands in the space that I was working with at that time. That's probably the biggest thing I'd take away, I would say. Great insight. Good rules of the road. Tell us about Buffalo Games. Well, Buffalo Games is the largest toy manufacturer, largest puzzle manufacturer in North America, and one of the world's largest as well. Interesting enough, I did not start at Buffalo Games. They have, through M&A, they've acquired certain brands. One was East Point Sports about almost 2.5 years ago now, I think, if my timeline's correct. And that is actually where I started, which was going from footwear and soft lines to, I wanted to get this hard lines sector in sporting goods. So it was still sports and business. It was just a different aspect of sports. So East Point Sports is a part of the portfolio company that Buffalo Games is under. We're a private equity backed organization. And honestly, when I was working at Keen, COVID, the pandemic, we scaled the business in a very lean team across multiple business units globally. Another life change personally took me out to the East Coast with my wife now, Jen, and I was working in a global capacity, and it was long hours. I mean, 6, 7 o'clock with Europe and 8, 9, 10 o'clock with Asia. And I was pretty worn out after a pandemic that I know a lot of e-commerce folks empathize and look back and say, how did we do it? And I was just at a point where the team was in a really good spot that I built. The business was scalable and sustainable. And I spent 10 years in soft lines and footwear and apparel, and I wanted some difference. And East Point approached me, and it was a good fit that, kind of just looked great on paper, and it all came together at the right timing, which I think is a big piece. And so I made the jump over, and that's kind of what brought me over to here, the kind of Buffalo Holding Corporation, which is what we kind of call it internally. So, for those of us who have kids, best puzzles we should be looking at right now? Oh, for the younger, I think we have, I don't want to say an up and coming brand because it's been established in the market for a little while, but we have 2 brands, Chuckle and Roar. And Little Buffalo, which is another brand that's it is launched. Anything within that umbrella, depending on your age of kids, would be recommended from my perspective, because they're, depending on the different types of games, whether it's floor puzzles or table puzzles or whatever, that's probably where I would steer you to.
All right. So we'll start there. And then for adult games, what are we looking at?
Oh man, we play in both the traditional kind of games, game night, where it's like board games, card games, dice games, and then we go into like your game rooms, from pool tables to dart room or dart boards, cornhole, axe throw. So it really, I would say, depends on what your family is into. And I think we have some really good, intriguing sellers in both sides. I don't think I could pick, honestly. I don't think I could pick.
Yeah. All right. These are all great. Tell us your day to day. SVP of Digital Commerce. You got a lot going on. What does it look like?
It depends on the time of year. So right now, obviously, we're getting into kind of the crazy aspect of holiday shopping, which is exciting and very exhausting all at the same time frame. Not so much the shopping behavior, but we're running a lot of financial plans, a lot of timing plans for when we got to go to market, but we're also budgeting for all of next year too. We're going into that. So it's kind of a double whammy. But my day to day, I try to always review, our previous week's performance. I don't always get to that, but for me, it's always rooted in the data. And that's not new for anyone in the e-commerce landscape, but it's where we start, because we have to stay on that gauge. But I would say, checking our performance, ensuring that all of our tech stack is working, because it is fueling a lot of different parts of our business. Probably prioritizing any of our executive needs and strategic planning initiatives is a big piece right now. And then last but not least, like my team, I'm very grateful, but I'm really interconnected with my team, whether that's Teams message, et cetera. So I'm constantly checking on them to ensure that they're good to go. That would probably be a top 4 that I always try to do day to day. The rest is wherever the day takes me.
Yeah, 100%. We do have a lot of uncertainty in the market, as we talked about. How do you kind of balance that with thinking about the next year, the next few years? What's the right mix? Do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners and how to do about that?
This year is unique, I would say, more so than most. Some aspects of the job are just inevitable. I think you do have to get comfortable with saying, hey, this isn't something we want to do, but it's something we have to do to sustain our business. And it could be a short-term hit for a long-term play. And I think that's what's challenging in this role right now is, hey, we're having to make some really hard decisions that we know could be challenging in the short term. And not something we always want to do, but that's something we're faced with right now, and we have to do it to sustain. But perseverance in these times and in this channel is what I can say, even though it could be a battle every day. Long term, I think it's always staying the course and trusting your gut and following the data. You can always revert if you need to, but I think if you do enough prep work and you can bear through some of the tough times, the long-term results will come.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
Switching gears,
Yeah.
Tell us about content. So we go looking for puzzles, whether it's for the kids, the adults, our friends, whatever it is. What's fresh and what's most compelling in the space?
Content is one piece, and we've talked a lot on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people that's saying like, hey, what's changing? What's going to change, et cetera. Every day there's something, especially with, AI and what it's all doing today. But I do think one thing that hasn't changed is content's availability to, influence and drive consumer purchasing decisions, whether it's written or creative. Now, how that comes to life may be different, but you still have to meet certain needs of either the consumer or the platform to drive search, to drive traffic, to drive conversion. And so I think in this space, though, I think you hit the nail on the head is when we release 500 puzzles a year, how do you keep them unique? And I think that's where you really need to dig deep and finding out, hey, what are the differences for this puzzle versus this puzzle versus this puzzle? Because the consumer, from research we've done, is not all the same. Someone who's buying a Star Wars puzzle is not someone that might buy a cat puzzle in a barn. So you have to think about what that is. And it's one thing we're looking at right now is how do we ensure we stay relevant in the creative space to ensure we're modernizing and making sure we're adapting to that consumer. And so that's just a quick example of how it's a little bit different in how we approach it.
So I got to ask, do you have a bunch of people who get to invent new puzzles and that's the gig?
We do. I wouldn't say a bunch.
Yeah.
But we do. We have our manufacturing process very dialed in. I can't commend our leadership team, our operations team, and our business unit team. They have I can't say flawless, but an amazing operational model.
Yeah.
So it allows us to focus on creative puzzles, et cetera. So we do have a team of designers and very, very very, very valued licensee partners that we work with to collaborate and design new puzzles weekly, per se. And that is constantly happening in the background. So yeah, there's people that's their sole focus.
Yeah, that sounds super fun. Maybe the next gig after the podcast. So
maybe
that could be a good one. I want to ask one more question about content. What are you seeing that's working? Is it images? Is it optimizing for the algorithm? Is it video? What's the right mix?
I think it's going to be probably dependent on what partner you reach to. But I would say for us, optimizing the core content for the algorithm is something that we are just starting to get into for the new algorithm per se. So when we're talking Rufus and Cosmo and everything that has changed from an AI perspective for Amazon particularly, but also now we're talking about core content and the relevance of PIM data for ChatGPT and Perplexity, et cetera. So that I would say we aren't there fully yet, but we are adopting. We are changing the way we write content to ensure that it's not just SEO, but it's GEO, it's AIO, et cetera, optimized for those type of algorithms. And for the few tests that we have ran in certain areas, it's been promising. And I'm excited to see that adapt. And there's some really good partners out there that was skeptical about some of the, I'd say, AI power insights and content generation, but it's showing very promising. So I'm excited to see what that future has.
And then when it comes to creative strategy, you have some pretty unique ways about thinking about where to get ideas and what's going to work. How do you go about that?
It's different for everyone, I think, depending on, your space and how long you've been in the role. But for me, I always try to challenge myself and try to challenge the team that, especially in some of our categories where we're the market leader, it's easy to only look at your competitors within the category. So I always say hey, we're in puzzles per se. What are pharmaceuticals doing? What is home and furniture doing? Because I think their challenges and hyper competitiveness in certain categories have to make them be best in class. So for me, it's always it's a quick review of oh, that's an interesting way that they're telling that story to fit a consumer need. What if we tweaked it like that for one of our categories, whether that's puzzles or sporting goods or preschool toys or whatever it would be hey, let's flip it on its head. So that's my biggest takeaway of the creative visual side of, hey, let's try this to just see what happens and if it can inspire something new.
Love it. And then last question on content, how do you test it? How do you know what's working?
Amazon has, a couple things. If we're talking strictly Amazon, they've obviously improved some of their A/B testing features within Vendor Central, Seller Central, et cetera. So that's been one way that's been pretty plug and play. That was not the same as what it was 5 years ago. It was like pulling teeth to test creative through that portal. but it has improved dramatically. There's a few third-party SaaS tools out there that help us test and gather consumer feedback. The biggest one, I think, is Pick for You, is the one that we probably hear and talk with the most, which is good. And the other aspect of it is we also just kind of deploy some random, whether it's advertising tests. We actually generated on the sponsor brand video side using some of Amazon's AI creative, which again, when it first came out a year or 18 months ago, whenever it was challenging. Now it's improving. So we just sometimes say like, hey, our internal team doesn't have the bandwidth to test this creative and design it. Do it ourselves, throw it out there and see what hits sometimes, because you never know. We've had some surprising, promising results for stuff that we never thought would perform well with consumers.
Yeah. So if I play that back to you, it's experiment with what the tool set will allow you to do. And then even if that isn't your final way of doing it, at least you can get some great learnings from that approach.
It's well said. I think you can't wait for everything to be perfect. And we're in an industry where, MVP within product management is deploy, test, learn, revise, deploy, and you just constantly do that. And if you do that in any channel, in any way that you go to market, it's bound to happen. And you're going to find one piece of gold in somewhere in there and then maximize that opportunity.
For our listeners who want to know more about the category, what's the size of the catalog or SKUs, or how do we think about scale in this space?
For sure. Ours is we have a larger catalog than, I don't want to say than most, because I think most would depend on, kind of all the categories you play in, but specifically in puzzles in a few areas, like we have a very large catalog, 5,000 SKUs or so. Now, compared to when I was in footwear, where we had 150,000 SKUs in UPCs, this is small relative to that, but this 5,000 is still large in comparison to our catalog. Now we try to optimize that as much as we can, but when you have a lot of variations in images and teams and everything like that, it can scale up pretty quickly. But that's about the size and scale. But we, depending on which category, puzzles are our biggest. Sporting goods is probably our second, and those two are the biggest categories, I would say, for them.
Yeah, that's great. Great scale to work with. Well, no conversation in this space is without mention of AI. We touched on it earlier, but broad brushstrokes, how are you putting it to work, and where do you see the opportunity?
Depending on who you ask in our organization, you ask 10 different people, you're getting 10 different questions. I would say we are optimistic. We're hopeful. I wouldn't say we're leading the charge in any way, because I think we're really, this is a very complex space, and we're a lean team. So we don't have the tremendous amount of resources to, adapt and lead a tremendous amount of things. But because we're lean, we're finding ways to try and, I would say, from a focus of optimize our bandwidth first and foremost, not eliminate. We want our teams to find ways to use it to improve productivity versus replace. But specifically within the e-commerce landscape, there's a couple of ways. Obviously, writing core content generation. I would say one thing I didn't think that would take off as much as it is research and discovery, i.e., hey, we need a tool to help us do this. Go do a research plan and present 5 of the best SaaS tools out there. Bang, it saves us hours and hours and hours. I mentioned a little bit of creative generation. So whether that's sponsored brand videos, et cetera, we're absolutely testing the water there. I've partnered with a few third-party platforms to optimize content from, hey, run these 150 products, title bullets, et cetera, now optimized for Cosmo, Rufus, et cetera, and kick it out. And 3 days later, we have everything done. But those are probably 3 to 5 different wins we have outside of, integration, workflow automation, et cetera.
Okay, these are great. And one other question on AI. I know a lot of our listeners ask me, where are we in the adoption curve? Are you using it every minute of the day, or is it a bit here and there, or, kind of where do you see things?
I'm probably a little bit biased because I would say I am using it almost hourly.
Yeah.
Whether that's helping me craft emails, analyze certain aspects, jog different ideas. I have a few agents set up to do research, et cetera, for me. So I may be a little bit ahead of the curve or not. Maybe I'm behind the curve. I don't know.
Right.
But I would say I'm probably hourly to every other hour in that matter. But I think it's still very early on, for a lot of people, even though it's, I would say, adopting at a faster rate than any of us have ever seen that have been in this industry for a long time.
All right. Well, these are great. Matt, thanks so much. I've got a fun section for you called our Rapid Rundown. A few fast-paced questions, your quick thoughts. First off, your favorite sporting good theme you've worked on.
I'm going to go too past. I worked on a Stephen Curry campaign with East Bay, which was my favorite campaign ever. Present, we have an axe throw product that has done really well in the market. And I can't take full credit, but it was one of the more innovative products in our space, and it really changed the game.
Your go-to tool in your e-commerce stack.
I'm a nerd, but I'm Power BI all day. The more I can get into Power BI, the better. In whatever capacity that is.
You got to be hands-on to be working directly in Power BI. I love it.
I do build a little bit. Unfortunately, my SQL skills are lacking, so I have limited capabilities, but I can build in there, and I try to do as much as I can.
One thing that always sparks ideas when you're stuck.
Music in the car while driving. I'll go back to some old school, whatever, soccer days. It's something that just kind of calms me down and slows my mind and allows me to approach something differently.
If you had to launch a new toy, puzzle, or product in e-commerce, what would be the image of that new offering?
My team would make fun of me because they know I'm not a puzzler, but I would say a Kobe Bryant versus Michael Jordan puzzle. I would do 1,000-piece puzzle. You can see the picture behind you, but Kobe was one of my favorite athletes of all time, and I would have to do that.
Yeah. All right. We'll be on the lookout for that one in our search results. The best way for our listeners to reach you.
LinkedIn DMs probably. I'm too obsessed with LinkedIn, so that's probably the easiest way to do it.
This is great. Matt, thanks for sharing all your insights. Great to have you on the show, and I hope you'll come back on Beyond the Shelf.
Really appreciate the time. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.